Today, we're diving into some of the creepiest stories ever shared on Reddit. If you're into true horror and unexplainable paranormal encounters, you're in the right place. Drop a comment with any stories you'd like me to cover next. And don't forget to like and subscribe to help us hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of August. My mom used to hide under my bed at night. I was born in 2000, grew up in a small town in Northeast Ohio. We had one of those little ranch-style houses, all on one floor, 3 bedrooms. It was just me and my mom for most of my life. My dad left when I was a baby. She was a good mom, from what I remember. We didn't have much money, but she made sure I always had what I needed. She worked as a waitress at a restaurant in the center of town. Always tired, but always kind. We'd watch movies together at night. She'd tuck me in, kiss my forehead, and tell me she loved me. I felt safe, except at bedtime. I must have been about 6 or 7 the first time I noticed it. One night after she tucked me in, I heard the floor creak after she turned off the light. Not out in the hall, right by my bed. I remember freezing, listening. Then I heard the sound of her breathing. Slow, heavy, right underneath me. I leaned over the edge and whispered, "Mom?" She didn't answer, just this soft little giggle. Not mean, not playful, just weird. I called for her louder. After a few seconds, she crawled out from under the bed like it was the most normal thing in the world. Smiled at me and said, "Go to sleep, sweetheart. Mommy's here." Then she left the room. The next night, same thing. I heard her crawl under right after lights out. The soft thud of her knees and hands against the floorboards, the shift of the mattress as she settled in. Then the breathing. I was too little to really question it. I thought maybe it was just a game she liked to play. But the older I got, the more I realized it wasn't a game. It became a routine. She'd tuck me in like normal, turn off the light, and then she'd get under the bed. Every single night. And then she started doing little things. She would tap on the wood under my mattress in these odd rhythms. 3 taps, then 2, then 4. Sometimes it sounded almost like a song, other times like random patterns. If I moved or sat up, she'd stop until I lay back down. A couple times I caught her peeking out from the foot of the bed. I'd feel eyes on me and look down, and there she was. Her face just visible in the dark, one eye glinting in the faint light from the hall. No expression, just watching. I stopped sleeping well. I'd lie stiff under the covers, too afraid to move or call for her. If I tried to leave the bed, she'd grab my ankle. Not hard, just enough to stop me. Then she'd giggle again. That same soft, weird giggle. I never told anyone. How do you explain something like that when you're a kid? I figured no one would believe me. It wasn't every night that something scary happened. Some nights she'd just lie there quietly. I'd hear her whispering to herself sometimes. Words I couldn't make out, soft and steady, like she was talking to someone I couldn't hear. This went on for years. During the day, she was totally normal. Made my lunch, helped with homework, joked with me, hugged me. I remember trying to work up the courage to ask her about it once when I was around 10. I said something dumb like, "Mom, why do you sleep under my bed?" She just blinked at me and smiled. "Oh, buddy, I don't do that. You must be having silly dreams." But that night, she was there again. And the tapping was louder. By the time I was 9 or 10, I stopped looking under the bed. I started sleeping on the couch when I could get away with it. Eventually, when I turned 11, she told me I was old enough to have a lock on my door. She never came back into my room. I don't know why she did it. I don't know what changed. She passed away when I was 23. Cancer. In her last weeks, she was confused a lot of the time, drifting in and out. But one night, when I was sitting by her bed, she grabbed my wrist and said very clearly, "I kept you safe, you know. You were never alone at night." I still don't understand what she meant. I found a hidden door in my basement. I wish I had never opened it. I've lived in my house for 5 years. It's an old place built in the early 1900s, with all the charm and creaks you'd expect from a century-old home. The basement has always freaked me out a bit. It's cold, damp, and smells faintly of mildew. But I'd never paid it much attention beyond the occasional trip to store boxes or grab tools. Until last week. I was moving some old furniture when I noticed a draft. At first, I thought it was just the basement being drafty as usual, but then I realized it was coming from behind one of the shelves. The air was colder, almost icy. Curious, I pulled the shelf away from the wall, and that's when I saw it. A small wooden door, barely taller than a crawlspace hatch covered in peeling paint. I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't on the house inspection report when I bought the place, and I had never noticed it before. It had no handle, just a keyhole. I should have stopped there, I should have walked away. But I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my toolbox, picked the lock, thank you, YouTube tutorials, and swung the door open. Behind it was a narrow stone staircase, spiraling down into darkness. The air that rushed out smelled wrong, damp, metallic, and faintly sweet, like rotting fruit. Against every ounce of better judgment, I grabbed a flashlight and started descending. The steps felt endless. The farther I went, the more the walls seemed to close in. When I finally reached the bottom, I found myself in a small, circular chamber made of smooth stone. In the center was a well. It looked ancient, the edges worn smooth as if by centuries of use. Here's where it gets weird. As I shined my flashlight around, I noticed something scratched into the walls. Words. Over and over, the same phrase. Do not look down. I backed away from the well, heart pounding. But then I heard it. A soft, wet sound like something shifting in the water. My flashlight flickered, and in the brief darkness, I swear I heard a whisper, faint, like it was coming from miles below. Help me. I should have run. I should have bolted back up the stairs and sealed the door forever. But something about that voice, it didn't sound threatening. It sounded desperate. Against my better judgment, I leaned over the well and aimed my flashlight down. The beam barely reached the water. It was black and still, reflecting nothing. But as I stared, the surface began to ripple. Slowly, something started to rise. At first, I thought it was a person, a head, pale and smooth, breaking the surface. Then I saw the eyes, round, lidless and too large for its face. Its mouth was wide, filled with needle-like teeth, and it was smiling. The whisper came again, louder this time. Help me. I don't remember running back up the stairs. I don't remember sealing the door or pushing the shelf back in place. But I must have, because when I came to, I was sitting on my kitchen floor, shaking, the basement door locked tight. Since then, I've heard noises at night. Soft scratching, like something trying to find its way out. Last night I found muddy footprints leading from the basement door to my bed. I haven't been back down there. I don't think I ever will. But the scratches are getting louder, and I can't help but notice they're starting to sound like words. Help me. There's an extra hand in my kids' photos. I paid to get professional photos done of my kids. They follow some weird variant of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. Only one of them is ever smiling at once. I thought maybe it was time to bring a professional in and stop having to Photoshop different heads on the kids for their Christmas cards. Everything went fine. We had a nice outdoor session at the edge of the woods. My son and daughter hugged each other, smiled, posed, the works. Everything was fine, until I got the photos back. As I looked at them, I noticed something. "Hey Frank," I said, "doesn't it look like there are two hands there?" He leaned over the computer. "Well, yeah, that one's Isabella's and that one's Jack's." "No, Jack's hand is over there," I pointed. "He didn't put his arm around her, he refused, remember?" But it was obvious. Isabella was putting her hand up to her shoulder, and there was a hand underneath her hand, even though Jack's hand was clearly hanging at his side. "I guess she made a mistake," Frank continued. "She was probably trying to Jack's hand around Isabella, but then forgot to Photoshop his own hand out." I frowned. I wish she told us before she did that. It looks kind of, weird. The hand under my daughter's didn't really look like a child's hand at all. It was too big. Just where was this woman getting her stock images? I continued flipping through the album. I stopped to linger on a photo where Jack had finally wrapped his arms around Isabella. She wrapped her arms around him too, and they were both looking at the camera. Perfect picture. Except there was an extra hand on top of Jack's. Just 2 fingers laying over his. I wouldn't have even noticed it if I hadn't seen the first hand. I called Frank over again. He began to laugh. Well, I guess she's using AI. I don't think so, I said. I mean, those are Isabella and Jack. How would AI make that? No, there are things with AI now where you can upload a photo and tell it to do things, like make it a LinkedIn picture or remove the background, and it often changes things even when you tell it not to. That's a big privacy violation, I said, my heart starting to pound. I don't want their pictures in the system. I called her up. I probably should have given her the benefit of the doubt, but I was so angry by that point that I just started yelling. You have no right to upload our photos into some AI, I told her. She sounded near the point of tears. I didn't do it. I swear. Please don't write a review. Then she paused. Wait, I'll prove it to you. The photographer, Janice, came over an hour later. She showed us the original files on the computer and their metadata. She showed them on her camera's screen. In the originals, I saw the extra hand under Isabella's, the extra fingers over Jack's. She could be faking it, but she seemed so sincere. When Janice left, I felt even more confused. I flipped through the photos again, staring at the extra hands. They had to be AI. They had to. We finally put the kids to sleep. Frank and I relaxed in front of the TV. It's just so weird, I said, unable to let it go. I know. An hour later, I went up to check on the kids and froze. Isabella was, as usual, sprawled across her bed in a chaotic fashion, her hand hanging over the edge of the bed. Coming up from under the bed, there was another hand, holding hers. I screamed and flicked on the light. There was nothing there. Frank came running. I told him about it, and he burst out laughing. You're going to start having nightmares about these things, he chuckled as he got on his knees and checked under the bed. Then the closet, then Jack's closet and bed. There was nothing there, of course. Nothing at all. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept checking on the kids. I kept thinking about hands. Hands attached to emaciated corpses hiding under beds. Hands attached to serial killers breaking into homes. Hands attached to nothing at all, scurrying across the carpet like spiders. I finally fell asleep, but I woke up with a start at 3 a.m. As I shook off the fog of sleep, the first thing I noticed was that Frank was holding my hand, something he never did while we slept. I turned over, back and forth, and it took me a second to realize that the hand attached to mine wasn't attached to Frank at all. I screamed and the thing seemed to disappear in the shadows of the covers. We checked everywhere, everything. There was nothing in our room, nothing in the house. But my own hand was pulsing with pain and 5 bright red scratches were across the palm, bleeding. I can't do this, I sobbed. I can't. My hand felt tingly and weird and numb. As we waited for police to show up, I flipped to my phone and looked at all the security cameras. No one had entered or exited. There was nothing there. Except, I noticed the footage at our front door from the previous day, when the 4 of us had gotten home from the park. There was a hand on my shoulder, but Frank didn't have his arm around me. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy listening to these scary stories, it would mean a lot if you could drop a like or follow, and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of August. Let us know in the comments what stories you want to see next.